Okay, and we're COMP2068, and this is week 2, lesson 2, part 1. And we're talking about GitHub and how I need you to sign up if you haven't done it already to get your 1%. So I put up a bunch of links up on Blackboard, again, just for game development. So if you want to take a look at that, they're there under course information, I believe, or course documents. And today what I want to do is I want to do a little bit more about GitHub because we're going to be using that extensively. And one of the biggest complaints I've had in the past is, Tom, you want us to use GitHub, but yet we don't know a lot about it. I don't know how to collaborate. I don't know how to do these kinds of things. Can you help me out? And the answer is, yeah, I can totally help you out. And we're going to be normally I would serve you guys with assignment 1 today, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give it to you next week. So that way you guys have one more week to kind of pull things together.
And then you can enter class and hear some good news.
But today we're going to be talking about a few things. Things to talk about if I can get to all of them. There's a few PowerPoints, and I'm going to put them up online later on today along with the, again, the YouTube video will be up today, tomorrow. Usually I try and put it up within 24 hours or so. I've got a long day here today. I'm going to be here until 9 o'clock. So I'm not sure if I'll have time to do it all. But I'm going to put up the YouTube videos when I can. All right, so without further ado, first part, we're going to talk about a little bit more about GitHub and why we use GitHub and all that kind of stuff a little bit more. So last week I just had you sign up, which is what you've done already. So you go to your GitHub account and kind of get signed up. But really what we're talking about with GitHub is revision control, also known as version control. And it's part of software configuration management. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a fancy term for that's taken actually out of the IT infrastructure library, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, ITIL. And if you ever want to work for the government or do anything that's in a larger corporation like the banks and so on, being ITIL certified, at least at foundation level, is recommended. And we don't do that here, but I don't think that it's something that you should avoid, right? But anyways, so software configuration manager is part of the suite of IT service management, that whole library there, ITSM. And it talks to how we have to keep track of our versions or revision control. And that's where GitHub, this whole idea for GitHub and Git came from. And again, each revision is associated with a timestamp, which we saw last time, almost like a, you know, when we kind of do a stopping point, if you will. And we do a revision or a commit every major milestone. So as we move, it should be part of our workflow. It shouldn't be something we do as an afterthought. So I don't want you to do it like this. I don't want you to go up on GitHub, throw up your assignment the last minute, and that's it. That would give you 2 marks out of 4. So if you're getting 4 marks for your assignment, 2, just putting it up, that's bad. That means you're not using the GitHub as you should. There should be numerous amounts of commits. And again, snapshots, what we're talking about, of your work as you move forward. So that way, worst case scenario, you can always go back. You can compare the revisions. You can also restore them or revert back to a previous kind of version of your code, or merge them with others. So again, back in 2005, they created this Git thing, which was a command line tool, primarily for Linux, and it also was available for Mac, OS X, OS X, and so on. But it became popular again because there's other revision control systems out there as well, or version control systems. Of course, there's SVN and others that people are using today. But Git is probably one of the most popular, or maybe the most popular version control system out there, right? So Git, command line tool to make local repositories on your machine. So basically, a directory or a folder in your machine is used as a repository, and there's certain there's a framework that wraps around the folder that basically keeps track of everything that you put in there and the version of the code that's in there, right? So you can actually, again, locally, you don't have to even go remotely with Git by using command line tools. And there's also a Git tool, a GitHub tool you can download, which we're going to do today, that allows you to do things locally without actually connecting it to Visual Studio or even going up online. So that was Git. Git started in 2005. Later on, GitHub, which was actually came up with this web-based hosting service, which allows you to use Git on the command line or through a UI, the tool online that we saw last week, right? Or you can also download a desktop version of a little app that you can put down, which I recommend if you're not going to use Visual Studio 2013, which I was telling you, this is what I'm telling you to use this time around. And again, from a web development perspective, you're like, hold on, Visual Studio 2013, I don't like that. I like Aptana, I like brackets, I like whatever, right? And what I'm telling you is that for what we're doing, we're using Visual Studio 2013. There's advantages to it, and it links nicely with GitHub. So does Aptana, which we saw in our other classes as well. But this command line tool, I mean, without using the command line tool, you can kind of link up with this little app, and you can update your folder. We're going to do that today. So a few good reasons to use GitHub. Again, one, we talked about version control. Two, keep your code in one place. So let's say you have multiple computers, or you have a computer at home, you do some work at home, and you don't want to lug it around to work, right? You can work on your files anywhere you want. And you don't have to have your code in more than one place or different versions of your code lying around in different places. The other one is collaboration, which we're going to try today. So you can collaborate or work with other people on the same piece of same project. Working on the same piece of code, maybe not a good idea, right? Because if you make a change and the other person makes a change, we're going to see that might pose an issue. But working on the same project, it's good. It's best practices for sure. Some new people walked in. I'm just going to pass around some of the sign-in sheet. Please don't check it. Please initial is what I'd like you to do. So if you've checked it, last week is okay, but this week I want you to initial, please. So let's talk about this GitHub client anyway. And if we're going to do it together, I'm just going to go into my version of Windows. But again, I'm running Windows on a virtual machine. As you can see, I'm running a Mac right now. I'm just going to launch Windows on a virtual machine. You need a pen, I'm guessing. No problem. Let's make sure I get it back. So as it's going to start for me in a second. But really, if I'm going up on GitHub, and I invite you guys to join me, please don't just watch. Let's do it together. If you haven't signed up for GitHub yet, this is the time to do it. We go up on GitHub, and when we connect, normally it takes us right into our account because a lot of times we set it up so that the browser remembers how we go in. But if it doesn't do that, and if you have to sign in every time, or if you want to, instead of signing out, again, I use incognito mode a lot with Google Chrome, right? And I can go into GitHub, if I can actually type properly this morning. And it doesn't log me in right away, but I'm not also signed out. So I've got I'm signed in there, and plus I've got incognito mode. I do that a lot if I want to not sign out. Okay, so down at the bottom here, it looks like it says download GitHub for Mac. Well, I'm on a Mac, so that's why it's giving me that little, the actual app for Mac is allowing me to download. For you, whether you're here in the school computer using your laptop, and again, I recommend that you use a laptop if you can, more control for you, right, in terms of what we're doing here. I'd like you to download the app. So if you go down there, download it and install it. Yeah, sure. You go on GitHub, see right here, and you scroll all the way down.
Oh, on the login.
And right here, yeah, right on the login page, if you're already logged in or if you log in automatically, use incognito mode so you can do this, right? So again, you just click on the link, download GitHub it'd be Windows. And as soon as my Windows resumes, I'll go and do that. I'll show you the link there, what it looks like. There it is. I'm just doing that in the background. Here's Windows. So again, I'm on Windows 8 on my side here.
So it's basically like cloud space on the computer. just access to like a Google Drive or something.
which is GitHub.
GitHub when you run the application.
It's very similar to that, but what it does is, this is what my application looks like. If I go to GitHub, I'm just going to go there with incognito mode again. Pass it on. If you haven't signed in, please sign in and then pass it back, please. So again, if I scroll down here and I'm on the Windows side, it'll say download GitHub for Windows, right? So I'll get this whole nice little thing here. And when I download and install it, it kind of looks like this for me, right? So it's a little app. Hmm?
It's a web down.
Yeah. It looks like this for me. I have a little, there's a little app that kind of sits in my Windows, and it also includes things like the Git shell commands for Windows. So if you're having problems connecting Windows and Visual Studio with GitHub, this sometimes will fix your problem as well in terms of the way it tunnels and connects to GitHub and all that kind of stuff, right? So again, it gives me this local repository view, as well as if I look at something like COMP2068 Lesson 2 from last semester, it'll show me all the stuff that I did locally, right? And it'll also show how I'm connected remotely if I need to sync it up or not. We're going to talk about that. Sorry?
Do you have access to all of these files?
You will. Thank you.
I just have a matter.
Okay, so try and download your, if you haven't had a chance to download it again, try and download your little tool. Have you tried doing it? Yeah, go ahead, man, do it. Do it on the school thing. It'll just wipe out afterwards.
It's not
Yes.
We never got the sign-in sheet over here.
Oh, what the hell? That's a bad thing. Please initial. Okay, so again, what this is doing is once you've downloaded your tool, it's an alternate way of doing stuff. So let's try. Who's been able to do that already? Who's downloaded their local tool? Okay, I'm gonna give you a few more minutes to do that.
it just says that your network connection's not working.
That's your issue, buddy. It's not my issue.
Yeah, right. Figure it out yourself.
On the Mac side, if I go to GitHub, on my GitHub tools on the Mac, it looks very similar. So here's GitHub on the Mac. So whether I use local stuff on the Mac or on Windows, it's very similar. The tool is a local tool that we can use to sync up our folder, our local repository, with our remote repository. All right. So again, let's say you're a person who doesn't want to use, you don't want to use Visual Studio, you want to use Aptana, or you want to use some other thing that doesn't link up to GitHub in the same way as Visual Studio does automatically. You want to use a text editor, Notepad, something else, right? This is a good tool to download and use, so that way when we connect, we can use this. So let's try this out. So I'm going to kind of create a new repository again on GitHub. I'm here on the Windows side now. And on the Windows side, I'm going to go into New Repository, create new repository. And you can do this too with me if you haven't done this before, or if you've only done it a couple times. It's good practice for you. So let's do this together. So again, you go up to your GitHub. There's a little plus on the right-hand side, right? And you're going to click the plus sign, and it's going to give you a couple of options: new repository or new organization. You don't want new organization, you want new repository. Click that. And now we're going to, I'm going to create a new one. It's going to be called COMP2068, and it's going to be called Lesson 2, right? Lesson 2, because that's what we're doing today. And I'm going to create the repository. And if you notice, it gave me a little check mark because it has to be a valid name that I use for my URL. Can't be spaces or any illegal characters or anything like that. So this is a valid link for my repository. So COMP2068-lesson 2, right? Now there's nothing in here right now, but it does give me something called a URI. And if you watched the video last week or follow along with me, this URI is how we're going to link up to Visual Studio. right? That's one way of doing it. But it also gives me an option that says set up in desktop, right? Set up in desktop. Locally here, if I go to my tool, and if you've downloaded this tool, and hopefully you've got it ready. If not, you can watch the video and do it on your own, right? I can click this plus button on the tool, this local app that I've downloaded, right? And when I click it, it says I can create a new repository or I can clone an existing repository. That's the option I have here on the local tool. So I'm not on the website anymore. I've created my remote repository on the website, and now on the local tool, instead of doing it through Visual Studio, I'm going to clone my desktop, my repository, the remote one. So when I click clone, it's going to access my repos. There's a long list of mine that I have got going on. But here's the one I want, lesson 2, right? Lesson 2. Did you guys get this? You have to link, it basically syncs up. You have to set up your tool for the first time. It asks you some questions like your login information and all that kind of stuff. And once you've done that, it's going to enable you to see your repos. Now again, I've got quite a few of them, right? So it gives me an opportunity to kind of clone one of the repos that I have online locally. And this is the workflow. If you want to clone a repo locally and you want to do it without Visual Studio, separate, which is what we're going to do here today, you can do it like this. So I click COMP2068, lesson 2, as an example. And it says the repository has already been added, right? I have a repository here, lesson 2 from previous day, from last semester. And that's why, if I want to, this is my issue, not your issue now. But it says, hey, the repository is already there. So how do I change this so that way up online I can sync up with a repository that's new? So for me, what I need to do, this is a few changes. You don't have to do this, but I do. I'm going to have to go into settings and change my repository name to 022, just so it's different, and press rename. So that's what mine's going to look like now. And if I go back into my tool, right, and I go back into here and click clone again, and this is the one it is. The repository says already been added, but it has not, right, because I don't have an 022 locally. And if it has, I might have to make a new name because of my last things. Bear with me while I do that. It's amazing. 02, I'll make it something else. 02X, there we go. So it's not 022, 02X. And it's probably because I already have a local repository. If I want to kill my repository locally, and why don't I do that just to make sure it's not there? I have mine under GitHub, and here's all my local repositories. I created my own GitHub folder on my computer where I keep everything, and here's all my stuff. So I have to look down and see if there's a lesson 2, which there is. There is even a lesson 2 too, right? That I kind of had together. And there's a comp. I'm just going to kill them because I don't need them. So we're going to do this all again anyway. There you go. Now there's no more lesson 2. All right, and I'm going to go here and put it back the way it was. Okay. Yeah. So here I'm going to remove. Press OK. Remove because it's looking for the repositories that are gone. I'm going to go back in here and says I'm going to say clone. I'm going to choose lesson 2, right? And it says here clone repository is what you should get, right? Clone repository. And when I do that, it pulls the information down from GitHub into my local folder. So if I go back into my local folder now that I've said clone, I should have kind of a latest version of my repository in here. And if I don't, I have a lot of them. If I don't, I can always do this again. And I'm just going to rename. I'm just going to go by name. It's possible, but I doubt it. COMP2068, yeah. And let's go back into the tool. Oh, there it is. It's asking me where I want to put it. That's why. Just a delay. Here it is. I want to put it on GitHub. There we go. Now I have it. Here's lesson 2. So here's my local repository, right? It's called on my my local hard drive here, right? With my local folder called lesson 2, GitHub lesson 2. Now, we've made changes in Visual Studio before, but let's say I want to make a change here locally, right? I want to make a change here, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to go new, and I'm going to put in a text file, a text document. That's going to say my first text document, right? So I've just made a new text document randomly, right? If I go back into my tool, hey, look, there it is. So my tool keeps track of my folder. That's what it's a tracking tool, right? That keeps track of any changes. This is outside of Visual Studio, outside of any other thing. It keeps track of my tool. So now for here, if you know what I'm saying, I've got this one text document, and it says, hey, there's uncommitted changes. Well, it's listening for me to make a commit. A commit, again, going back, is a snapshot of what I want to do for my work. So I'm going to say, in my in this text input, I'm going to say added text document. And I'm going to click on commit. Now, even though I've committed it, yeah, I have this one commit, but the commit or the snapshot, I'm going to kind of call them both things. It's only here locally on my machine. Up on GitHub, if I refresh, there is no commit up here. I haven't synced up or published my changes, right? In order for me to do that, I've got to click the publish button, which is right here, right? So I got to publish, and if everything goes well, and if I'm linked up nicely, then as soon as this is done publishing, and give it a second because my internet connection is not as sturdy and crazy like yours, right? And this is a text file we're talking about here. As long as we're connected properly, it should work. Once I'm done publishing, what's going to end up happening is I'll get an update here. I bet you it's already done. There it is. All right, so now, if you notice, I have a commit online. I've connected with myself online. So the remote repository is synced up with, or synchronized with, my local repository. So both folders, right, are in the same, have the same commit. So again, any changes I make locally, I have to publish it or sync up with my remote repository in order for them to be reflected remotely, right? However, anything locally that I do, if I'm working, it'll instantly be reflected with my tool. So if I go to my tool, anything I do remotely in that folder, I can see, right? So again, you could run this concurrently with Visual Studio. So you've done something with Visual Studio, and you don't want to, somehow your connection with Visual Studio is not working. Sometimes it happens, or you mess it up, right? You can use your local tool to send stuff up to GitHub for your folders, as opposed to using Visual Studio or something that's built into Aptana or brackets or something else, some other IDE that you're using. Okay, this is all fine and good, but this doesn't really conquer our collaboration issue. So I'm going to start collaborating with you guys, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I want to work with you guys on this COMP2068 Lesson 2 lesson today, right? And how we're going to do that, I'm going to go into Settings, right? Now you don't have to do this, I'm just going to do it with you. Collaborators, right? And in here, I'm going to confirm my password, which I've saved. And I'm going to pick a couple people in the class who are going to collaborate with me. So Tom, what's your GitHub account? Tom. Pick it like this. Is that the one? You see how it finds them? Right? Okay, how about you? What's your GitHub account? We're going to collaborate together too. Spell it, please. S-A-G-R. G-A-R. N. M or N? S-A-G-A-R-M. And then P-A-T-E-L. That's the one? All right? Yeah, with you. What is it?
A-N-I.
Say it, spell it.
A-N-I.
A-N-I. R-U-D-H.
No spaces. R-E-D-D-Y.
R-A-D-D.
R-E-D-D-Y.
That's the one? It's not this one or this one. All right. Okay. So I've got a few collaborators here. I want you guys, the people that I've asked to collaborate with me, I want you to go up on GitHub and I want you to do this. When I go up on GitHub myself, if I go back on my, here on my, my folder, my repository, there's a little plus next to COMP2068-lesson2. First, in order for you to get to me, you have to look for COMP2068-lesson2 up here to search for it. So do that first. Actually, I'll take yours too, just because. Let me just go in there for a second. I'll do one more person with collaborators, so we can do a couple more people on every row. Yep. Spell it. C-H-U-T-C-H 01. That's the one? Okay. Is that the one? Okay. So I want you guys to go to COMP2068-lesson02, and you got to find me. So you can also go to my folder. So my last name, github.com / my last name, which is TSILIOPOULOS, like it's showing here on the screen. And then look for COMP2068-lesson2 as my repository. And then from there, I want you to press this plus button. Okay? Let me know when you guys have done that. By the way, you're going to have a chance to do it with everybody else in the room in a second. We're going to make our own little thing. Did you find it? So so go to COMP2068-lesson2. Click on the plus. And what I want you to do with the plus is I want you to create a new file. So where it says new file, name your file. You name your own file. I'm going to call mine Tom Test. You call yours whatever you want. And in my Tom Tests, I'm going to say testing the collaboration capabilities of GitHub. Okay, and there's some pitfalls too. All right, and then on the bottom, after you've created your file and maybe added a comment or something, inside the file, I'm going to put in there that's something that says I'm going to commit my new file. I'm going to say added new file, right? And by the way, your file, you can end it any way you like txt, right? If you want, that's perfectly legal. I'm going to commit my new file, and if there's any problems, as an example, here's my tom.text.txt. I've done it remotely now, so I haven't touched my local folder. I've done it on the remote side. I've created my new document. You guys can make whatever document you want, call it whatever you like. Yep. Once you're finished doing it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I got a couple. I've got some people that I've got. Now, if you notice my commits, here's my commits. I've got a person added it in here. I added a couple of myself. Right? Yours is going to come up when it does. Right? Eventually, it'll come up. What was that? I put that in there. That's me. But you can do whatever you like. Yes.
What do we have to write in a proposed new file?
In a what?
In a proposed new file.
In a new file? Anything you want. Oh, wait, your name. The name of the file.
No, under the like, in a proposed new file.
Here? Yeah. And if I go to here, you name your file here.
Scroll down.
Oh, and here. In your commit, you write down what you're doing, what your changes you made. I just added a new file or something. Telling everybody else who's looking at your repository what you did. Okay, I'm going to go back. Okay, I got a few of them now. Whoa. Okay, I got 4 commits. I got a couple of different people. And this is what it looks like, guys. So you have a bunch of people collaborating together on a bunch of different files. But, hey, there's an issue here. I got a bunch of these files up online, but my local repository isn't synced up. What do I do? Well, I can use my tool, and if it says sync, if I hover over it, it said there's 4 that I got to sync with. There's 4 new things that I got to grab. So if I click sync, it's going to take the stuff that's online and pull it down to me, to my local repository now. See that I have it locally, as an example, compared to, and now it's the same. I'm kind of synced up with what I have remotely. Well, that's because you haven't, because your repository isn't my repository. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so we created my repository, right? And I synced up with a bunch of you, right? But what if you want this? What if all of you want this same thing, this COMP2068 thing, right? Well, click on fork. Go click on fork for COMP2068-lesson2, my repository. I've got a couple of them already. Some others already forked me there, right? If you click fork, it'll link up my repository to yours. So basically, your GitHub account will have COMP2068 lesson 2. For me, it'll come into your account. Okay? Let me know when you've done that. Go do that now. So you forked it already. And when you've done that, if I refresh, it'll show me that this number, this fork number, is going to go up. Now it's gone up to 5, as an example. Let me refresh again. Here's 5. I still only got 5 of you. Come on. You guys all got to do it. Fork me, please. I don't mean it in a bad way. Yeah, but all of you can do it. Not just the people that I asked to collaborate with me. Anybody can fork my GitHub account because I'm a public repo. Remember when we created, there's 2 options, public or private. And because my account is a basic account, just like yours would be, I can't create private repos unless I want to pay, right? So I'm not doing that. So mine's a public repo, which means you all can see it. Anyone in the world can see my repository, right? If I refresh now, I still only got 6 guys. Do what I'm telling you to do. Fork the repo. I also have a pull request, which is interesting. It's something different. I'll tell you in a second. Okay, I got 10 of you. So 10 of you have forked me. That's good, right? And again, but now, so you forked a repo. Let's say, for example, let's fork a bigger one. Okay, so this is me, and we're going to use create.js, right? Create.js or something else. And this is the library we're going to use today. So I'm going to go to easel.js. I'm going to type easel.js here on my browser, if I can type properly. And under easel.js, if I click on this JavaScript library, because we're going to be working with that today, right? It's going to give me an option to download, right? If I click download, it shows me GitHub, right? And most of these new fandangled APIs, especially for JavaScript and for others, they have a GitHub repository. A lot of people use this GitHub repository idea to create their code base, right? So I want to click on GitHub. When I do, it takes me here, and it says, which one do you want? I want easel.js, right? Well, guess what? You can fork this one too. So go ahead, fork this big one, create.js, easel.js, right? And you can search for it as well. What was that? That's right, 1,000 forks. And all you're doing, when you fork this easel.js stuff, you're getting the latest and greatest library for easel.js and the create.js framework, which is what we're going to be using to create our games for this course. All right? Okay, but what if, and if you guys have already done this, it's great. I'm just going to refresh and see the number go up. Yeah, it's 199 now. This is great. It's fantastic that you forked this thing. But what if, I'm going to go back to mine for a second, the user, the owner of the repository makes a change, right? How can I sync up with the repository online? How can I do that? Well, there's a way of doing that. Here, let me make the change first. So I'm going to add a file, and my file is going to be called my new file, right? I'll make a couple changes actually. And I'm going to call this, here is my new file, okay? And I'll say added a new file, just for the test, right? And I'll commit the file, make my commit happen. Here's my new file. And I'll also add a README, which will say COMP2068 lesson 2. This is a demo repo for collaboration purposes. Or maybe to demonstrate collaboration, whatever. And then I can add that in there as I can commit this new file as well. So I got a README file here, and the README file actually comes up down here, right? That's what the good thing about a README file, right? But now, hey, check this out now. If you go to your repo, does yours show anything when you look at your repo, the one you forked? Go to the repo that you forked for me. What does it show when you do that? Huh? Oh, go ahead. It should show, when you forked yours, it should show, not mine, when you show yours should show some kind of message that says one commit behind or commits behind, if you look at it carefully. Just saying. I thought you said we had fantastic internet today. Come on. Don't use the client. Go up online here and see what it says. And it says, I have unread notifications in my repository. It says, hey, this is I updated this thing 6 minutes ago, right? This new file, someone did this. And here's all these new files. I got a merge request, a merge pull request I've got from somebody else, right? So you can see that the repo almost can be used like a little forum where you can communicate and collaborate with others. Okay, so go back in there. Let me just go back to mine, to my file. It says 5 commits. Mine says 5 commits, but what about yours? And for me, if I look at mine, I've got 7. So you're a couple commits behind. Does it show you that you're a couple commits behind on yours when you forked me? It shows that? Okay. So what you do is you do a pull request if you want to stay up on top with me, right? And when you do a pull request, right, what you want to do is you want to merge, but you want to change the base to your own, not to mine. Once you change the base to your own, you're going to see an option that says change base, change base. You want to change the base so it shows your own folder. That's where you're merging things to, not to mine, right? Do your pull request. Okay, and now you want to do a merge, right? It's going to give you an option to merge. It's all up online. You can do it all up online here. I can't show it to you, but because I don't have it here, because I'm not doing the pull request, right? I'll let you guys play with that one in a second, and I'll come back around. I'm going to pause the video in a second, come around and check it out and see if you guys all got it, right? And the other thing you can do with GitHub is you can create an issue. So I made some code, and you notice there's an error in my code, or it doesn't work for your machine, right? You can create an issue by clicking Issues, right? And you can put together a new issue, which is a new problem with my code. And if you create a new issue, I get notified that there's an issue with my code, and then I can respond to it, right? I can change my code. You can also use a pull request if you've made a change, right, as an example, and you're saying, hey, pull my code in, Tom, because I made this really cool change to your code. What do you think? You can review the code. I can review your pull request, and if I like it, as an example, I can pull it into my code base and merge it with my own. So GitHub has all kinds of stuff you can do with it. We're going to cover stuff as we go. This is kind of another thing we covered today, just how would we collaborate very simply. What I want you guys to do now while I pause the video is I want you to collaborate, 3 or more of you, let's say, to collaborate together. One of you create your own repository, and I want you to collaborate between all of you. So let's say you guys in this row, one of you, this row, one of you collaborate, and all of you, or one of you, create a repo, and all of you collaborate on the same repo. Same thing with this section here, and all of you in this section here. I want you all to collaborate. All right? You got it?
You see that little tray with the notifications?
Yes.
I clicked on that, it said new notification.
Yes.
And
that's where it is all, right? That's what's up here, right? Okay, so that's your assignment for 1 second. While I'm going to pause the video now, and then after we get back, we'll finish off GitHub. Actually, if anything, while you guys are doing that, I'll finish off the other stuff of GitHub while you're doing it. So go ahead, collaborate with your guys. One of you has to create the repo, and the other people, I want you to collaborate with those people. All right? So go ahead. So I'm going to, you know what, because just to make it simple, I'm going to assign a person to create the repo. Who's created the repo on this side? You guys done it yet? Okay, so you guys collaborate with this gentleman here, right? I want all you guys to collaborate with Jean-Claude. So Jean-Claude, you're going to create the repo. And you know what, Matt, since you're new, you guys created a repo yet? Okay, so then you guys collaborate with him. If he's faster than I'm telling you guys, go ahead, collaborate with him, okay? I would have made Matt the guy, but you know, what the hell. And we've done this part. We've got your GitHub account. We've done all this. We've chosen the plan, which is a public plan. So you guys keep going. And we created a repository. All this stuff I'm going to put up online for you, and how to connect Visual Studio with GitHub. We did all that last week.